After more than 10 years, I'm going back to where it all started in my real estate career. Today, I just bought my first house in St. Louis, Missouri in over a decade. Let's dive right in. My name is Ryan Dossey, and I got started in real estate back in 2014 in St. Louis, Missouri. I had a day job that I hated, a business partner that was a coworker of mine that was fantastic. We ended up wholesaling a couple properties, coming up with enough money to do down payments on some rentals. Fast forward to 2016, I relocated to Indianapolis, decided to go full time, asked him to buy me out of what we had, and that was kind of my startup capital to build all of this stuff off of. Now, at this point, we've flipped hundreds of properties. At one point, I owned 150 rental units, and we've got Sold Fast, which is active in several markets across the country. And we realized we actually make more money doing the deals ourselves versus franchising. So we have Des Moines as a corporate location. I'm involved in Indianapolis still, and kind of in the middle of those is St. Louis, Missouri. It's where I view myself as being from. It's where my wife and I met. It's where Ballpoint Marketing, as well as Call Porter, are based out of. I've got family and friends there, so it just kind of makes sense. This seller to me was absolutely hilarious. Dude is a hustler, and I mean that with respect and admiration. So we had agreed on a purchase price. I was like, hey man, I'm going to give you $150K and some change. And he was like, cool. How am I going to move? And I was like, you pack stuff up, you rent a U-Haul, right? And you move. And he was like, man, I need some boxes. And I was like, okay, yeah, you can get some boxes on Amazon. And he was like, you could get me some boxes on Amazon if you want me to sign. And I was like, bro. So we go back and forth. I end up being like, hey man, I'm going to send you, I think it was like 30 boxes in a certain size on Amazon. I e-sign him over the contract, and he doesn't sign it. So I call him. I'm like, hey man, want to make sure you got everything? He's like, yeah. He's like, I've been thinking about it, and 30 boxes ain't enough. And those are little boxes. I was like, bro. If I uploaded the recording, you could probably hear the annoyance in my voice. I was literally like, I don't buy boxes. Like I'm not a moving company. Like I'm doing you a favor here. And he was like, oh, okay, all right. And I was like, I will send you this random assortment of boxes from Lowe's. I'm going to send you some extra large, some medium, and some smalls. All in all, I think I sent him like 70 boxes, and it was like $400. But to get a place for $150K that needs 40, that's going to be worth $249 to $275. I'll risk the $400. As we've historically done on this channel, I'm going to walk you guys through everything. How we funded the place, how we found it, what piece of mail, what list, what we think the numbers look like, why we chose this particular deal. What I'm really pumped about is this one project covers our entire startup cost in this new market and then some. So this particular property was a single family home with equity. It was owner occupied and they had some liens on the place. I'm going to show you how to pull that exact list that I used to get this deal out of PropStream. Now, the first thing we're going to do is hop into the top here, punch in the zip code. It's in 63125. Now, on all of my lists, I always go in and add an equity filter. I personally do 35 to 100%. So we're going to come in down here, do 35 as the minimum. Reason I do that, I want somebody to be able to afford to sell me this place, ideally at a discount. We're going to go up to the property details, go residential, and this was a single family home. Now we're going to go back to the owner information, and owner occupied we're going to mark as yes. And the owner type, we're going to do individual. So in this particular zip code, there's roughly 6,500 properties that have equity and are owner occupied. Now, just because somebody has equity and they live in the house doesn't mean that they're going to want to sell it to us at a discount. So the next thing we want to do is come back into here and add some lien information. So we're going to go over to liens, and we're going to say include. And I like to throw some sort of a minimum amount on here. You could do like 0.5% or 1% of the property value. Without even doing that, if we just include liens, we can see that there are 268 properties that match that criteria. Now, in full disclosure, I didn't just target this one zip code, I targeted the entire county. So we cast a much wider net. This particular property, though, was in this zip code and was on this list. So all you would do if you wanted to hit this list would be check this box to select all, go add to list, create new, call it whatever you want to call it. You'd then come over here into the My Properties tab, find that list that you'd picked, check this box to select all of them, and export it out. That is how we would have pulled this particular mail list from PropStream. Now, the seller on this property got a custom branded postcard from my company at Ballpoint Marketing. If you go to ballpointmarketing.com and you want help with any of this, like pulling the list strategy, any of that, you can literally just go to book a call, fill out the form, and a member of our team will be in touch with you and they'll just do that for free. One thing that's cool, they don't get paid commission, so they're not trying to push you to anything. It's literally, what do you want? How do we think we can help you find that? If we go over to products, this came off of custom designed postcards. Now, I'm a big believer in marketing as branded. I have local brands that I have set up, or in this instance, it was Sold Fast. Here's some examples of pieces that we've done for other clients. This one was in Springfield. This one was in PA. Looks like that one was up in Hudson Valley. So something that's local for that market that literally nobody else has. One thing that's cool with that is we can control what they're getting in the mail and then what our website looks like after. So this particular seller got a custom postcard from my brand that was really pretty nonchalant. It was like, hey, I want to make you an offer on your property. No pressure. Give my office a call if you're interested in selling. And this was one of the folks that responded. One thing that I do on all of my direct mail is I always include my website. I personally use an investor carrot like concierge site. They basically charge you a couple grand to build something custom that's for you. If you're noticing at all, I like to have things done custom just for me that nobody else has. That way for sellers, it's very clear, like we're different than the average investor that they might reach out to. Now on my postcards, I'm either printing my URL or I'm using a QR code to take them to a specific link if I want them to go to like that local city page or maybe my reviews page, for instance. Now, goes without saying, and if you're not new here, this isn't going to be any surprise at all, but you have to take your calls live. For the love of all that's holy, if you're spending money on marketing, you want to answer when people call. If you don't have internal staff, I own callporter.com. They've taken thousands of inbound calls for me over the years. On a typical month, they're taking anywhere from 10 to 15,000 inbound calls just for agents, investors, and folks in the home service space. So they're not pretending like they know how to, I don't know, book like a spa appointment or schedule an oil change, and then like they know about real estate. They've pretty much only talked real estate since this company started back in 2016. Whether you're using us for mail or not, if you need help with your calls getting answered, they start out at like $49 a month. You can literally just go to callporter.com and either schedule a demo or check out online with the pricing page. If you're going to market consistently at all, I'm a big believer in utilizing a CRM to track everything, like who you've mailed, when you've sent them, pull tracking numbers that record calls. You can send texts and emails directly out of. We've endorsed Resimpli heavily since back in like 2019. I actually had a competitor to Resimpli I owned. I begged their founder, Sharad, to let me try it. And I was like, hey, this is better than what I'm currently selling. And I pushed all of my clients to Resimpli. So if you're looking for somewhere to manage and track your leads and e-sign contracts and all of that, check out Resimpli. We have affiliate codes for some of this random stuff that I'll link to down in the comments below. So on this particular property, we ended up getting the property under contract for right at $150,000. We budgeted right at $40K for the remodel. The property needs a roof. There's a little bit of a driveway that needs poured, some painting, the big ticket items there if we decide to do the kitchen and bathroom, but we wanted to have quite a bit of margin, and it's a relatively small house. It's right at like 1,300 square feet. So we're anticipating being all in for right in the low 190s, and there's an identical comp at $275K. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. However, we went conservative, and our numbers on this deal, we're assuming we're only going to be able to sell it for $249. So we've got quite a bit of margin there if we're able to match that other comp that was by no means like an HGTV style flip. We're doing very well, but if we do hit 275, I'm not going to be upset at all. One thing that was a little funky with this place is there's a creek that just touches the back corner of the property. Now, the previous owner had a legit music studio in the basement that never flooded. They never had any issues. The yard is sloped away from it, so we're feeling okay, but it did get a little hairy at closing. As I mentioned, we were buying this house today. We had flood insurance lined up. We were actually supposed to close on it back on Friday, and the seller was like, hey, I need a couple more days to get my stuff out. Awesome, man. No problem. We thought about closing and doing like an escrow holdback. So, hey, man, you can get some of your money now, but I'm going to keep some to make sure you leave. But then that starts the clock on all of our holding costs and stuff. And I don't really want to pay for the house while I don't have access to it. So we agreed to push closing to Monday. Got an email Monday from the insurance carrier that we had lined up to do the flood insurance that said, hey, internally, we currently have a moratorium on binding any new policies because there's flooding in the area. Well, that's what I want. I want to buy a house that I can't get insurance on. I have a little bit of trauma on this. Years ago, I think it was back in 2016 in Indianapolis, I had a single family that I'd partnered with somebody on. Ryan played attorney and drafted up like a one-page JV agreement. They were funding the project. I was going to do all the work. We were going to split profits 50-50. What ended up happening is the day of closing, somebody torched my property and 5 or 6 others all on this same street. It was in a rougher part of town. Fortunately, it was a cheap house. I want to say it was like we were selling it for $60,000. We were all into it for 40. So it was like we were going to turn a profit, but not much. However, I had messed up. So the day of closing, that lender was like, hey, we'd feel more comfortable if the property was in our name. And I was like, yeah, cool. No big deal. Told title. We closed in their name, but I had purchased the insurance in my name. Long story short, I filed the insurance claim and they're like, you don't own this house. And I was like, well, here's this paper that I wrote up. And the insurance company came back and said, hey, you can sue us. We think you have a case here, right? You can sue us to get us to pay out. You're going to have to hire a New York attorney at New York rates, or we'll give you like $15,000. At the time, I couldn't afford to eat the $25,000 there, nor could I afford an attorney. So I took the $15K and I ended up eating the $25 and making it back over the next project or two in order to make that lender whole. But long story short, I do not play with insurance. I tell people that I'm really glad God taught me that lesson on a $60K house and not a $600K apartment complex. I'm also super thankful that it happened to us and not to the family that was going to be moving in that evening had it happened like a day later. So sucks, ended up being a loss. We were able to wholesale just the dirt. But that being said, I don't play with insurance. So when that carrier was like, hey, we're not going to insure this, we had to hop around and find something. Shout out to Neptune. They were able to get the policy underwrote, bound within like a couple hours. Our agent did a great job getting all that lined up and handled. It's an easy like online thing. The previous vendor that had bailed on us was Flood Simple. My understanding is different insurance carriers have their own like moratoriums of when they'll write and when they won't write. Flood Simple was quite a bit cheaper. So if you need flood insurance and there's not flooding going on in the area, maybe check them out first. But Neptune was able to get this thing done for us so we could get this project closed. I also have to give a massive shout out to our private lenders on this. They funded our purchase and we're also funding some of the purchase and rehab. We had a newer lender that has kind of expressed interest in these. So I like to start with new lenders on a smaller, quicker in and out project. We gave them a first position lien. We're paying them 8% plus 1 point. That's typically what I pay my lenders. Normally they're funding the full purchase and rehab, but we kind of had like a dollar amount they wanted to play with. And internally we funded the difference. The reason that I put videos out like this is so you guys can copy and paste them if you're wanting to find your own deals. You could literally go pull these lists, you don't have to do custom postcards, stuff Ballpoint has in stock. I don't necessarily have to throw a website on it. take your calls live and be meeting with property owners in your market in real time. Now, if you don't want to go it alone, I totally get that. You can go to ccfmastermind.com, which I'll link to down below as well, and apply to work with us. If you've done a deal or two, this is a great option for you. If you've not done any deals at all, I don't have anything to sell you. I refuse to be the guy who sells the dream. I'm here to help folks that already have it. I have a full playlist on how I would start if I didn't have cash and hadn't done a deal, that if one of you guys comments below asking for it, I'll just link to that as well. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. People tell me that what we do here is like great and appreciated, and they don't know why the channel isn't growing. So if you would drop some love, we'd appreciate that. Talk to you guys next time.